Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another VIDS on the Fly from the Cresting Out Podcast. I'm your host, Krusty Canuck, on this beautiful, beautiful September fall day. Anyhow, I'm not going to beat around the bush. Just a reminder, too, if you like and hear what you see, click like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share this content over your social media platform, and let's begin. I call this episode fucking free speech and freeloading. Of course, the past couple of days have been certainly dramatic for certain individuals who are fans of the Jimmy Kimmel Show. I could care less. Pardon the dust here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just getting off work. I've had a long day, so bear with me. Anyhow, this whole issue with free speech. The thing is, the way I look at free speech, it shouldn't be an issue, it should be done. Okay? And it's funny how the pendulum is swinging back and forth, when it comes to the left side of our politics and the right side of our politics, banging heads back and forth in regards to it. Now, I guess Jimmy Kimmel was apologetic for what he said about the whole MAGA thing towards Charlie Kirk's assassination. Okay. Mind you, though, too, I was never really a big fan of Jimmy Kimmel. I liked him better when he was on The Man Show with Adam Carolla. That was actually funny. You know, I remember some of the complaints that people would say, oh, how sexist, how lewd, how chauvinistic, and it was just a show. It was humor, okay? Now, we see a contradiction here, though, too. What I don't understand is that there's so many people that were so upset because Mr. Kimmel lost his show. Now it's back on the air again, but still. He loses his show. All these actors come to rally and say, hey, free speech, free expression. Okay. Where were the actors coming to Roseanne Barr's aid? Where were the actors coming to Gina Carino's aid when they made those tweets, right? Roseanne Barr, a very, very well-established comedian in her own right. Sometimes obnoxious, sometimes rude, but that's her shtick. So what? I remember watching Roseanne when it was on the air back in the 1980s and early 90s. That was like a family thing to watch Roseanne. It was a great show. And then when she came back a few years back, came back on the air with her and Dan and all this crap, you know, and the kids are all grown up, right? She makes one tweet in reference to a certain politician, and oh my God, the outrage. So you're seeing a contradiction here. So anybody that's watching this that says they're on the left and they're a diehard liberal and they believe in freedom of speech, why was Roseanne and Gina Carino canceled? Right? And yet you want to rally behind Jimmy Kimmel. So there's a definite contrast out there, ladies and gentlemen, where, you know, it's okay to say this and it's okay to say that, but don't you dare do this or don't you dare do that. It's the same mentality they had during the pandemic. You better get your jibby jab, you better get this, you better get that, or else. Lots of idle threats, you know, lots of doxing. I've mentioned that before in the podcast there last week. And just contradictions galore. Now, I personally believe free speech is paramount. I don't care what side of the fence you live on. I don't care what hole you live in. I really don't give a shit where you're from or what you believe in or what you do with yourself or your partner or your wife or boyfriend or whatever. I don't care. What I care about is that everyone has the right to speak their mind. Everyone has the right to be expressive. Everyone does. Now, what Jimmy Kimmel said, yeah, it was in bad effing taste. Did I agree with him being fired temporarily? Not entirely. Because I've said before, ladies and gentlemen, where I was let go because someone didn't like my words. Right? And it goes to prove that if someone's going to go out of their way to fire you because they don't like your words, then they got a spine about yay big. So we can go back and forth all day, which was tasteful, which had couth, what didn't have couth. That's fine. And like I said, I never was a big fan of his show to begin with. You know, apparently he was not a big ratings farmer. He didn't have a lot of good ratings, so, but either or, you know, all these people that rallied on his behalf to get him back on the air. It's just a contradiction as far as I'm concerned. You know, and when it comes to freedom of speech in this country, we've got politicians now that are promoting this bill called C9, this anti-hate. It's basically just a new, softer regurgitation of what they tried to promote last year with Bill C-63. You know, thought crimes, that thing. What could be deemed as hateful, that thing. Right? Look what's happening in Britain right now, too, with people that are going to jail and being fined for posting things. Because there's certain British bureaucrats that don't like certain words. Oh my, please don't say those awful things. Right? Is Canada coming to follow suit too? Right? And it's just getting so contradictory. It's getting to a point where, well, our group can say this and our group can say that, but you better say this and you better not say that. That's what it's coming down to, folks. No wonder people are getting pissed. No wonder people are fighting in the streets. No wonder people are getting mad. And there's more and more people coming online to say they've had enough of your shit. I've certainly had enough of people's bullshit. I've had it with people that are 35 years and older, complaining about words, complaining about not accepting their identities, complaining about how hard it is to serve a cup of coffee on an 8-hour shift. I'm just coming off 11 hours myself. I wasn't serving coffee. So, contrast. Somewhere we have forgotten to tell people that not every stressful day is the end of all days. And yet, when people speak their mind, there's still a handful of people out there that want to monitor and complain, cry. Oh. Fuck them. Okay? Enough of the sugarcoating. Excuse me. Enough of the tiptoeing. And enough of the pandering. Right? Start getting some backbones out there. Start fucking standing up for what's right. Okay? Start doing the right thing when it comes to standing by your families and your friends. Right? We're living a day and age now where the Canadian dollar is going downhill because of people that were elected. Not because of people that work and do pay their taxes, but by people who are elected. Donald Trump had a nice speech at the UN the other day, talking about how this is a hoax and that's a hoax, and you all know what I mean. And I tend to agree with him. What annoys me about Mr. Trump, though, is that he doesn't really want to talk about the Epstein file. And all of a sudden, he's all for backing Ukraine in the filthy fucking war. The big proxy war going over there. So, that's what kind of annoys me. There's other things that are on my mind, too. They're really starting to burn my fucking butt. Right? There's still so many people online. Doesn't matter if you're on TikTok, if you're on Facebook, whatever social thing you are on, that are holding on for dear life to the whole elbows up mantra, to the whole, oh, you don't understand how this works, and you don't understand what he's really trying to do, and Carney is such a great guy, and yeah, such a great guy. He's nothing but Trudeau 2.0. And he's advocating for C9. Then you get this Gary Alessandria, or whatever his name is, the public safety minister, who was recorded and saying that the gun program, the gun grab basically, the compensation for Canadian gun owners is not going to work. It's a terrible program because there's no bloody frickin' revenue to do it. And then he's denying it. He's doubly backing on it, right? So it's one big shit show after the other, ladies and gentlemen. So when it comes to freeloading, you're still seeing a bunch of people expecting perks and privileges for doing nothing. Right? I read on TikTok the other day, actually, they've actually given the people of Vietnam, I think it's $8 million in regards to, I think the article said something about rice that was gender affirming or something. I could be wrong, don't quote me on it, But I read it and I had a nice little chuckle to myself. I'm thinking, what? $8 million about rice? Gender what with rice? I'll have to read it again, but it's out there. So that's in your heads right now, ladies and gentlemen. So don't fret. And there's something about another $22 million going to some African gender thing too. I don't know. I see all this information and it's hard to process because the stupidity keeps going and going and going. Like that Duracell, or the Energizer Bunny, right? Keeps going. You just want to blow it away. But it's just a real shit show. I would have had a proper podcast up for you all. But like I said, my work schedules take me away from the ample time to make a proper episode. So I should have some more episodes up this weekend, effectively. And we'll see from there. But in the meantime, it's just getting ridiculous, folks. And I'm going to ask, too, if you kind people can consider donating to any one of the pages in my description, whether it be my PayPal or the Ask Me application, I would greatly appreciate it. Things are getting tight for my wife and I, since Mr. Taxman is still taking his chunk of change, because according to them, I'm not paying enough. But if you can find it within your hearts to donate something, $5, $10, a couple of dollars, that would be great, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it. I'm still going to keep the podcast free, right? But a little bit will actually help me out quite a bit if you can. So it's out there. I'm not going to beg for coin. It's just not my thing, but things are getting tight, folks. So if you like to donate, please donate. Anyway, I'll carry on with the whole freedom of speech and freeloading. It's turning into a real poop show. Now, all the lefties are all upset because they fired this guy and they're talking about free speech, and yet they still forget that there was a lot of free speech that was going on prior to their hurt feelings, prior to their gender spectrums, and prior to their existence. And yet they were the first ones to complain when one of their own was hurt. So we got to snap out of this spectrum of left and right all the time. We got to start being a little more realistic when it comes to how we treat people. We got to start putting some more meaning to the words too. When I look at the word liberal, okay, meaning that you're liberal with things, meaning that I may disagree with what you have to say, but I'll fight for your right to say it nonetheless. That is what we should understand with liberalism. Liberalism now is just right the hell out to lunch. Far left nonsense. Right? Because you look at conservatism now, they tend to be a little more lenient when it comes to freedom of choice and words and expression and sexuality too. There's quite a few gay conservatives out there that are getting sick of the old politicized lifestyle choices. So it's just something to think about, folks, when it comes to what's going on today. My American friends stand by. To my Italian friends who are fighting in the streets against these Palestinian protesters, all right, stand firm. To my English friends, stand firm. Just a reminder, too, if you like to hear what you see, click like, subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be shy. Give me a thumbs up, comments, interact with me. Keep the algorithm going for us Canucks. Right? And then once again, just to remind you, too, if you want to donate, please donate. All the best if you can. Do what you can. A few dollars here and there. But I will try to get a proper episode up this weekend with a few more notes. Never mind the sun. The glare is kind of odd. Well, if you can tolerate it, great. But just been a long day, folks, and I just had to get a message out there to you all. So I never forgot my loyal fan base. You guys are amazing. Do what you can. Help you out in these trying times, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be shy. Help a neighbor out. Help a friend out. And let's persevere. And like I always say, humanity and merit wins the day, folks. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.